Hi everyone, welcome back to my next video. Today we're going to talk about an important subject, one that I do not talk about enough, and that is the topic of fear. Over the years, I've been doing this a long time. I've been doing it on YouTube and on my website for a very long time. And I've gotten literally thousands, and I do mean thousands of letters from people who have told me, Bob, I'm interested in what you're doing. It just really appeals to me. I want to do it, but I'm afraid. And sometimes people are they'll just say I'm paralyzed by my fear. So over the years, I would say that fear is the number one thing that stands in the way of you and transitioning into your very best possible way of life. That means it's important that we deal with how can you overcome your fears. So it's these fears that really keep you locked into a way of life that's kind of miserable for you. A lot of you, economically, your finances absolutely dictate that you make this change, and yet your fear won't let you. And so you're right on the verge. I know a lot of you are. You write to me and tell me you're right on the verge of being kicked out of your apartment, getting your eviction notice, and living in a cardboard box on the street. And for some reason, the fear of doing this is so powerful that you can't overcome it, and you might end up living on the street, which is the worst possible outcome. So you have to find a way to overcome these fears. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Here's the one thing that you must understand about fear. Fear is a God-given, biological, evolutionary gift. It is never our enemy. Even when it's completely out of hand and we're paralyzed by it, it still is not our enemy. It's our fear of fear that's the enemy. FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt's, well, that was a famous saying he had back in the 30s when we were going through the Depression and through the Dust Bowl. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself, and it's true. So I have a method that I think is virtually foolproof that will overcome your fears. The first thing that you must do is realize that fear is God given, it is a gift. You should be embracing fear as an ally. Before 10,000 years ago, all humans were nomadic hunter gatherers. That's what we did, that's the way we lived. No one lived in a house, no one planted crops, no one had domesticated animals, sheep, cows, goats, chickens. No one had any of that. That didn't exist before 10,000 years ago. So how did they got their food by going out hunting and gathering. And so say you were out hunting one day and you came across a tiger. A single human has no chance against a tiger. They are just powerful, incredible killing machines. And so when you see this tiger, there are three reactions. You can have a normal, healthy, calm reaction. The fear kicks in and says, I got to get out of here. But if the fear is too strong, then what you do is you jump up, and you're frozen. Uh, Fight or flight or freeze. That's a human response, all to fear. Um, Fight, flight, or freeze. So if you freeze, that might work for a while. Maybe the tiger won't see you, will go off, and then again, maybe the tiger will see you, and then once he's spotted you, you're the predator. He's the predator, you're the prey, he is coming for you. And so freezing is not a valid solution. That's a really bad solution. The proper solution is to crouch down, get low, stealthily back away, and get away very, very quietly, very calmly, under control, and aware that if the tiger does see you and attack you, you'll fight to the death. You'll lose, but you'll fight to the death. You'll do your best. You're in control. You're calm. You're rational. Your brain or your higher functioning is still in charge. That's the proper reaction to fear. The fear saved you in that case. The If you have too little fear, you're going to say, oh, there's a tiger. That's a lot of meat. I'll go kill him and eat him. Well, that's preposterous. Your lack of fear has overcome your good reasoning and thinking ability, and now you're charging after a tiger, which is certain death, and you die. So the right amount of fear, not too much, you calmly and under control get away. too little, you charge out there and get yourself killed. Uh, just the right amount, the Goldilocks amount of fear. Not too little, not too much, just right. That's what we want. That's what we always have to strive for. So if we make fear the enemy, we lose the ability to see this is a stupid thing I'm going to do and it's going to get me hurt. So when you talk to your friends and your family and you start thinking about becoming a nomad, almost universally, and everyone, the vast majority of people I've ever talked to said, their friends said, you'll get killed. It's horrible. That guy's a cult leader. You'll go out there and he'll take horrible advantage of you. Or there are wild animals everywhere, or they're going to run out of money, or there are roaming bands of axe murderers and rapists everywhere. If you go out there, it's certain death. So you're being constantly poured on this fear of becoming a nomad, and it builds up and becomes completely disproportionate, and you freeze or you make a stupid mistake. You just do nothing. This is most likely what will happen. Is what nearly everyone I hear from is or they just drop everything and run out completely unprepared. And that's, if you have to do that, then you have to do that. But usually that's your worst choice. You want to have some preparation time. Go out prepared as best you can to be out here, and that's going to greatly increase your chances of success. So all these fears that are going to come up in your mind, and there's a lot of them. We're going to go over 7 specific fears that I think you might have. So the very first fear I want to talk to you about is fear of the unknown and fear of failure. I think of those as two sides of the same coin. Because becoming a nomad is so radically different. Nothing, for most of you, a few of your exceptions, but for most of us, the idea of leaving everything, getting in your car, your van, your RV, and driving off and never living in a house again, that is so radically different. It just creates all of these different questions and problems, and they become a kind of like a cloud, a chaotic cloud of unknowing, of different possibilities, and all bad, and fears, and just all these different fears we're going to talk about get in there, and they just swirl around, and you have this sense of impending doom and failure. You talk to your friends, your family, and they all tell you how horrible this bad idea is. So the first thing to recognize is your worst fear is fear of the unknown and fear of failure. They kind of work together. And the way we're going to deal with this fear of the unknown is we're going to identify all your other fears, and we're going to find solutions for each and every one of them. And then that will dispel the cloud. When the thought comes up, you're going to run out of money. Then you pull up your plan. See, above everything else, the way to make fear an ally is that it forces you to think through, is this a stupid risk I'm taking? How can I avoid the problems the fear points out? You're going to run out of money. So that's fear number 2. Let's look at that now. You're going to almost certainly think in your mind, I don't have enough money. I'm going to run out of money. So the first thing you have to do with this fear is identify it. Give it a name. Feel it. Embrace it. Accept it. This fear, the fear of running out of money, is healthy and good. In fact, be grateful for that fear. It forces you to develop a plan. It will scream at you and say, this is risky and you're taking a stupid chance. Don't do it. No. Well, let me show you. This is why it's not as risky as you think, and it's not a stupid risk. It's not a wild chance. Here's what I'm going to do. And then you have a plan. Plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D. So if you have this fear of money, the first thing you want to do is develop an emergency fund. If your fear comes to you and say, you don't have enough money, and you say, I've got $3,000 in savings. I have a budget. I have a plan. I can live within my budget. I can always stop and get another job. Then you see there's a plan with an A, B, and C, and D on it. So whatever you're doing right now, get a second job. You want to build up your emergency fund. So if it's at all possible, if you're physically able, get a second job, put every penny into your emergency fund. Stop buying things. From now on, you only buy things that if they're life and death and they're absolutely essential to your new life. Start selling. Sell everything you have that isn't essential to life and death. I'll die if I sell this, so I can't sell it. Otherwise, you sell it for everything you can get. You build your emergency fund. You buy things really cheap. You buy everything that you can at the thrift stores, at garage sales. Spend as little as you can. Make as much money. find side jobs, find gigs, find any way. If you can't get another job and work 2 or 3 jobs, do it. Work 2 or 3 jobs, build that emergency fund. So then when you go, you'll say, uh, I have a plan. I'm going to be safe. I'm not going to run out of money. And if I do, I have a plan. I'll pull over, I'll stop, I'll get a job, I'll stay there until I build back up my emergency fund. Then the next big fear is fear that you won't be safe. In essence, you're afraid of predators, two-legged predators, criminals. I have a series of videos. I'm not going to cover this in any depth at all. I have a series of videos on how to stay safe. I can promise you that if you do it right, if you don't do things wrong, that's all you have to do is just use any sort of common sense. And you come out here, you'll be safer than you've ever been in your life. So don't let fear of safety of predators, two-legged or four-legged, stop you. You'll be safe out here. I promise. You know, you could be at the wrong place at the wrong time, anywhere at any time. Bad luck can hit us all. So I can't promise that won't happen to you, but I can promise you that statistically, you will be safer out here than you'll be anywhere else in the United States of America. Fear number 4, fear of breakdowns. Of all the fears, this is the only one that really is statistically valid. I mean, it's almost inevitable that if you're out here long enough, at some point, you're going to suffer a breakdown. I've had a lot of breakdowns. Well, a lot. I might have had a dozen in the last 20 years of being a nomad. And so a dozen out of 20 years really isn't all that bad. Most of them were in and out. A few were overnight. And almost always I've been able to stay in the shop. One time I actually had to rent a motel room. So again, I have an emergency fund. That's why you have an emergency fund. So if you break down, you have the money to pay for the repair, you have money to pay for the tow, you have money to pay for the motel room. Now the next fear is a fear, I think, of loneliness and not having any friends. So there's not only is this is such a radical change becoming a nomad, but you're leaving behind your infrastructure of family and friends, people that care about you. You're leaving them behind. And so that can be very fearful. Fortunately, while social media, I think, is doing our country a lot of harm, it also is doing us a lot of good. If you choose the good and leave behind the harm, social media can be a very good, very, very good thing. So you can have a whole bunch of friends before you ever get on the road. That's a really distinct possibility for you. So let me give you some idea of social media that you can use to make friends before you even go. We started a 501c3 called Homes on Wheels Alliance, HOWA, homesonwheelsalliance.org. Go there to that website, and you will find 2 things that are really, really, really going to be helpful to you. First is virtual caravans. So online, we have Zoom meetings. You don't have to be on Zoom. You can just call in with a phone. If you can dial a phone number, you can come and join this meeting. If you can know how to use Zoom, then you can be in and see people and be seen by people. That's always a better thing, I think. But either way. And so it's virtual caravans, a virtual campfire. You sit around, you talk, you visit. There's a topic. You get to know each other. You get to tell your story. It's a really, really good thing. Another thing that HOWA, Homes on Wheels Alliance, at homesonwheelsalliance.org, that's the website, does is we have caravans running. So at any time, you can leave your house and go to and meet a caravan. A caravan is a group of people. It has to be less than 75. That's usually in the ballpark of 15 to 40. 40 on the upper end. 10 or 15 is a pretty typical number. So you'll just meet them. You'll camp together in one place for 2 weeks. Then you'll move, and then you'll just move place to place in your vehicle in this caravan. It's been my experience that you will make better friends and more really deep friendships as a nomad than you ever had living in a house. I'm going to lump numbers 6 and 7 together. They're kind of the same thing. One is a fear of camping. Some of you have never gone camping before, and so the idea of setting up a tent in the wilderness like this is a completely new idea, and you don't really know how to cope with that. So camping can be a real fear, and driving. Some of you have lived your whole life in one town or in one county or one state, and you've never really even driven cross country. The idea of driving cross country is intimidating to you. So camping and driving can be a fear that kind of paralyzes you. And the answer to both of them is very similar. It's to take baby steps, to practice. Now, if you go to a psychologist or a psychiatrist with a paralyzing phobia, the way that they deal with them is they inoculate you against the fear. You go up against the fear, and then when it becomes too hard, you back away. You go up again, hopefully further. Eventually, you go further, and then once that becomes overwhelming, you back away. After a while, you just keep doing it. You keep pressing and going forward and pressing into the fear by doing what you're afraid of. Then eventually you overcome the phobia, the fear, and you're no longer paralyzed. And so that's what we're going to do with camping. Get your camping gear, shut down your house. You're in an apartment now, probably, or a house of some kind. Stop using your kitchen. Get an ice chest, a camping stove, and a 5-gallon jug of water, and do all your camping right there. You've gone camping. You're just in your house. Your house is your tent instead of a real tent. You're learning how to camp before you ever go out on the road. So you're inoculating yourself against this fear. And you're going to do research at the same time. You're going to watch YouTube videos. Maybe you'll read books. Maybe you'll read websites. You'll learn how to camp. And then you can find a local campground, probably in your city. There's probably a park in your city that has overnight camping. There's RV parks. Find someplace cheap. Go to find tent camping in an RV park. That's by far your cheapest. And you're going to be in a tent. And then go there and sleep in your tent. Same thing with driving. It's the exact same thing. You get out, you buy a GPS. You put GPS on your phone. You learn how to navigate all around town with your GPS. You take a trip to a nearby town. Eventually, you go camping an hour or two away. Then the next weekend, you go camping 3 hours away, then 8 hours away, and then a day away, drive a day away, then drive a day back. You know, you press into it and take inoculation. Okay, now I'm going to add a 7th fear. You can just barely see those mountains now because there's a big forest fire on the side of those mountains. And so forest fires, floods, and droughts, and heat waves have all become an enormous part of our life wherever you are. So how are you going to overcome that fear? Well, the main thing is you got a key, you put it in the ignition, you turn it, you drive away. You have less fear of those things than you did when you were in a house. When you lived in a house, you couldn't get away from the flood. Those people in Jackson, Mississippi, when they were out without water for 2 weeks, or if their whole town is flooded, or if you have a hurricane coming and you know it's coming, but you can't get out of town fast enough to get away from it, or if there's a fire suddenly come up, well, if you live in a vehicle, you simply go where those things aren't happening. And I've got a video out on dealing with wildfires, and so I'm not going to go into it all again. Just go watch that video. There are websites that tell you where the fires are and what's going on, fire alerts, fire warnings. And if you learn how to do all those things, then you can stay on top of all of these events as they're coming. So that's it. I've covered, I think, everything I want to cover, and I probably in more detail than I should have because this took too long. Forgive me. But I just want you to know that if you make fear your ally and if you use it as a tool to prepare yourself so that you are not taking foolish, risky, stupid risks. So down in the comments below, I'd really love to hear from you. Have I left out any fears? What are some ways you have dealt with some of your fears that have made it easier? Things I haven't thought of. Fears I haven't thought of. I just hit the big ones here. The main value of this YouTube channel is what you contribute in the comments. So please contribute down there. So if you got anything out of this video, like us on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, hit that thumbs up button, and we'll talk to you later. Bye now.